Hi, this is Andrew Eiche. I am the COOwl and Cable Slinger at Owlchemy Labs.
Yeah, and I'm Devin Reimer. I'm the CEOwl at Owlchemy Labs, and this is a job simulator speedrun. So kind of some background a little bit here on Owlchemy Labs. We make a lot of VR games, job simulator, vacation simulator, upcoming Cosmonious High, and this is our first really big VR game. So it's exciting. I love watching people do speedruns.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, so that soda can that he used first, when I joined Owlchemy, I was actually just a producer, and well, not just, I enjoyed it. And that soda can was the first thing I worked on my first day.
Oh, I did not know that.
I was trying to get it to shake. Yeah. At the time we were so busy and heads down, and they're like, this new person showed up and they're like, well, you know how to code too. And, we were getting ready to work at Rick and Morty, and they're like, just make this can so it shakes up and does something cool. And I was like, okay. And then we were working out of a house and just like bumbled my way back to some room and tried to figure out how to shake the can.
That seems like an alchemy task. We don't know. Just figure something cool out.
Yeah, and then also in this one, I did this one, the garage. It's interesting that they choose this first. This was the last job we worked on, right? So it's our most complex by far, and it shows it, right, and how much is going on. But when we first did it, some of the things we found out were like, if the car approaches you too fast, and this is the early days of VR, so we didn't know anything, the car would come up to people. And so we actually have to put it comes in slower, which I'm sure the speedrunners love us for slowing down the car. But at the end, if it came up at full speed, people would literally jump out of the way because they thought they were going to get hit by a car.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird. That garbage can was just kind of a throwaway thing where people were like, I want to put my garbage somewhere. And so we put it there, and then we kind of put it further away. And then people kept throwing it. And we're like, okay, we're making this giant effect and be exciting. And we don't tell anybody ever to do it, but everybody does it. Even on speedrun, people are like, this is awesome. This is something I want to do. It's quite funny.
While I'm waiting for stuff to happen, I'm gonna do that. We actually, an earlier version of this job had a whole I forgot what it was called, intermission is what we called it, and the garbage can would roam around the floor and you'd shoot stuff into it, and that was fun. Oh, yeah. But it made no sense. No one could figure out why the garbage can started moving and everything that would go into it. And these cars are it's interesting because we brought this game to so many different systems. It exists right now on Oculus Quest and, all the way to the original PC VR version and PlayStation. And as we brought it to each system, they all had different performance requirements. And so the cars were incredibly complex. And so we, at first each car was its own car. And then it's kind of like each car is like a little machine that pops in and does stuff. And the amount of effort that had to go into making these cars work. And a lot of times what would happen is as we were working on them, we would forget something, because the cars used to all be independent. And so, the green smoke in there, the next car would pop in and it would just start shooting green smoke everywhere. We'd all be freaking out.
Yes. So interesting thing about speedrunning this game is there is 3 different layouts of space. And so I can see he's playing on the smaller space. And actually we have to rotate the car. The panel for rotating the car is different based on different platforms. And so I know some people are like, well, this one's slightly faster if we have the larger play space, and this one's faster if we do the smaller play space, which is quite funny and something very unique to VR itself.
And he's grabbing tires, and this is something we talked about. So at least the speedrunners, maybe we slowed down the car, but they'll love us for this. The amount of effort that went into putting on these tires was amazing. So we originally had it where you had this bucket of bolts and then an air compressor tool that would do it. And you had to do it manually. And then we had the bolts auto screw in. Then we finally took a step back and thought about it and went, oh, wait a minute. You don't need the bolts or anything. As far as what the mental model of car is tire come off, tire go on. And it was oh, why are we doing all this work? Well, you could just pull off the tires and put on new ones and people feel just as satisfied.
Yeah, it's also really funny in that I spent a lot of time in the very early part of the auto mechanic. I'm working on it. And then we got to a point where I used to work repairing cars when I was younger and in a shop. And people were like, okay, you know too much about this. It needs to be sillier. So I moved off it onto something else so people could do the things that they would expect to do instead of what was actually reality. So made the game quite a bit better.
Yeah, it was kind of our rule that if you worked in the specific environment, you weren't allowed to work on that part of the game, just to make sure that you didn't know too much. It had to be this kind of approximation of what we used to say, what somebody reading the Wikipedia entry real quick would do.
Yep.
And then let's see. Oh yeah, the cheese comes back a lot. This cheese joke and this Bandit Bot. Bandit Bot makes an appearance in Vacation Simulator and even in our DLC. So we love Bandit Bot. So yeah, the chain that comes down every time. Interestingly enough, that's probably the most mathematically complex thing in this scene. Our lead engineer on this game, there's I think there might even be some old ancient Twitter post from around 2015 where he was trying to calculate how to get the chain to loop around like that, because it was kind of a fixture in the floor for a while, and then it came down, a bunch of stuff came up, and it never felt as good as just hanging the chain. And he spent many hours just getting that thing to loop like that dynamically.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've done a lot of speedruns for testing of this game, and that chain is always satisfying. Because it's just I get to frantically scramble, and the faster you do it, the faster it goes. It's just really good.
Also, we found out the audio on the chain was really difficult too, because a chain makes an individual clanking noise, but on some platforms we were only allowed to do 32 sounds at the same time, and you might have dozens of the chain sounds clanking. And so then all of a sudden the Daniel, our audio guy, and I were working on that back in the day, and suddenly you'd be like, hey, how come the game just stops? It just I got sent to the home screen. It was like, oh yeah, somebody went too fast on the chain.
He ran up into the play space to get access to put those dangly bits on really fast. It's quite funny.
That is good. Yeah, so the tech that everything hangs off of is called dangly bits.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike BossBot, or not BossBot, BanditBot, you'll notice that dangly bits don't make a return in any of our games because they are cursed.
They are cursed. They're very cursed. Always cursed. Dangly bits.
They are an incredibly cursed system that it's just something about the way that physics works in video games, that getting dangly bits and sprint, because they're internally, I think they're springs or something, and it's just a mess. And there's a lot of bad places you can go.
Yeah, for sure. We had as that car went up, I think it was that car, there was a bug where if you spun it around, it would hit the submit receipt button because the tail fin would hit it, and then it would keep hitting it until the game froze. Is quite. Oh man, dealing with physics.
Oh man, engines came in way late. We had an approximation, but we couldn't think of engine, and potato battery. This is we're talking 2 weeks before launch. We were putting engines in the car.
Yeah, no, they were very, very tricky to nail what you wanted to do in there. And then the end,
just what the joke was.
I want to pull stuff out.
Right. It was I want to pull stuff out, and then what's the joke? How do people fix engines? And it was I guess replace the pistons or the battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I worked on it. It's bad. Anytime Andrew COO is saying I worked on it, that's bad news. They don't let me code anymore at Owlchemy. I think this might be BanditBot might be back, and this is our joke. So when we write these, that's actually an interesting thing to point out. So when we write these job simulator and vacation simulator jokes, what we do is we go into a room, glove compartment.
You got the achievement.
You got the achievement. We go into a room and we just write down everything that we think of in this stream of conscious, and then we use that to become the actual task. So it's what's the thing you think of when you think of cards? You're hot cards, someone stole it, and then okay, that's a task. Or the lemon law, and it's okay, that's another task.
Yeah, lemon car is very, very funny.
Lemon car was one of the last things we did because we had all the systems set up, and we were Oh, I think we can do that. And then Graham, who made the chain, also did a really good Rob Lowe impression. I think he is the voice in that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like constraints in games are just sometimes yield the best stuff. We were like, we just need something about pulling off things off a car, right? That was the constraint, and it ended up yielding a great task and this great joke about a lemon car. You just needed to get rid of everything that was lemon.
Right. I think it came from like, we need to get rid of everything. I was like, oh, somebody was like, oh, it's a lemon. And then, yeah, this one was like, what's a car thing? And we're like, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he trashes his dad's car. Wouldn't that be funny? You were helping Ferris? And then it was like, yeah. And there's another Finn car that could touch the button.
Yep.
And the license plates and all this are funny, too, because I think they're all the locations at which Owls lived or had lived at the time, because the company was pretty small. So we're still not huge, right? But by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, there's like a Saskatchewan license plate in there, and I think there's a Massachusetts, Manitoba. Yeah. People to this day tweet license plates to me all the time from this game. They're like, "Whoa, I got my license plate in here." It's very funny. Ooh, broken hover effect.
Probably going fast.
Going fast. And we tried. Okay. To the speedrunners out there, we tried our best to speedrun it. We had a few people in the office who could go real fast to try to see how we would break it. There was an entire week or two where, myself and some of the other people kind of sitting around were just fixing bugs that were like, you could do this out of order. You could do all the tasks up front because you know what's coming. It was multiple weeks of fixing these like sequence bugs to allow this kind of speed run to happen without the game shredding itself.
Yeah, it's like really challenging because everything's in the same scene. So like a task, like task 2 could break task 9 if something bad happened. It makes testing really, really challenging.
Right. You think about a level, right? And like if something really bad happens when you're playing, like a Mario level, right? Well, when the next level loads, it probably all the bad things, they can just clear it all and start over again. But in this game, if something really bad happens at the beginning and somebody doesn't leave the scene, it gets real bad real quick. And to that end, we even worried originally, because this was early VR, like what happens if somebody puts so much stuff in the scene. So we had this thing called the Reset Cola. Oh, there's our Lemon Law card, the Reset Cola, and you could drink it and it would delete all the objects in the scene. It was so cursed. It would just blow up. It was worse than just having the game slow down.
Fast.
That's very fast.
Very fast.
Yes, lemons in the trunk were just like a last minute joke. But I think the one thing that we forget about the lemon car is that while, yes, we didn't change any code, it is the only thing in the game where every single part of it is completely like handcrafted art.
Yeah. And so watch the car as it like drives away. Yeah, if he gets his head down, he's the speed running. No. But yeah, the tires like spark as you like drive out, because we realized, some people are just not going to have tires on cars. Got to allow everything.
And in the infinite overtime mode, which I don't think the speedrun's part of, the cars like drift in and the whole environment. So with infinite overtime, we were like, how do we make the same environments like new and cool and give them a spin? And then the conceit was kind of like, okay, what would like the nighttime version of this place be? And so it was like, what if it was like, like a shop for people who are just kitting out their cars. So like Drifty Lube, right? And then it's this like drifters custom car paradise, and the cars all drift and skid in.
Yeah. Receipt printer. Go fast.
Oh yeah, finish. I see what happens. So you finish, you grab the exit burrito.
Fast. All right. What are we doing next?
Gourmet chef.
So this was the first area that we ended up building. So we built the prototype from this one. There was 4 of us in total in the basement of my house. And it definitely did not look like this. But it was the first version that we made and showed kind of off with Valve to the world of like, what could VR be when you could move your head around and interact with your hands, which at the time was just radically different than anything that had existed.
Yeah, video of it still exists. That predates my time, but video of this like old version of the game exists, and all the bots look different. And every once in a while we bring it back up to torment our lead artist, is like, look, this was a thing. That's a really interesting thing he did, right? So all he had to do to get it, because the system, pulling back the curtain a little bit, it's not that smart, right? Because really we're just trying to get you to get the feel of it. And we're not being particular. So he had to make tea. And to make tea, we're like, you need boiling water and a tea bag, and there has to be a certain amount of water in the cup. So he filled it mostly up with cold water, chucked the tea bag in there, and then chucked the hot water in, like a drop, right? And the way our system works is a drop counts as like affecting the liquid. And so it was just enough to like meet all our little constraints and say, okay, yeah, you must have done that test. You must have made tea, because no one would just pour one drop of hot water in a cup with a tea bag near it, over a tea bag.
Yeah, I see these completing a lot of tasks directly on the plate, which is like by far the fastest way to do it, because we just check when the next thing goes in. And then additionally, when he grabbed the tea bag out of the cup, he instantly threw it in the pot to make soup. So it was only one.
Yeah, because again, it has to. So in this game's not as complex as Vacation Simulator, which has much more dynamic like temperature. But here, right, the liquids have a temperature associated with them. So by pre-boiling the water, you accomplish one task, and then by pouring it in the pot, you're already getting the water, most of the way there. It doesn't have to wait to heat up, just like real life, I guess.
I think he's prepping for the next task here.
Yeah, there's a lot of that while they play the while they play the last audio and voiceover bits for the last, they prep for the next.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite tasks, because like this parent bot doesn't want you making a certain type of pizza because one of the children bot are allergic. And we just throw that in, and then people go and do it, and they're like, haha, they do it. And then there's like a line of dialogue, and some people feel really bad, and it's very, very funny.
Yeah, the little kid can blue screen out if you do decide to heat it up, like Timmy bot, or like allergic to tomatoes or something. I think he's doing it.
And heat. I think it's also heat.
Yeah, he's allergic to tomatoes and heat. There's another break in here. Like, we don't have a lot of branching logic in this game like we do in others, but there is. The kitchen has two of the branches, probably because it's the oldest. And the other branch is if like there's a dish cleaning task coming up, and if you just smash dishes constantly, the bot just goes, I can't watch this, and leaves. It's the only time that happens in any of our games. The bot's like, I gotta leave. I gotta be out of here.
Yeah. And that just came from like a million play tests, or some people were like, I don't want to ever do dishes. And then we were just throwing the plates, and then giving them something was very satisfying.
So this is kind of good, because so we've kind of seen this backwards. So there were a few plot lines we left in across the game, right? And so this is one of those plot lines, right? So it's not like really explicitly said, but it's like this couple, this bot appears in the office. He has a job. Then he appears here where we make the love playlist, and we're like, burn the CD, get it, haha. And then, give the ring. And then in the other test, you do the just married car, right? And so that's for this couple again in the garage, right? And then later on, I think we even crack a joke where they come back in Vacation Simulator back to job, where they're like on their honeymoon.
Yeah, just little through lines through a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a few of those, like the back to Banditbot. Banditbot gets chased out by the like bot cops in the office, but then later on we reference that where Banditbot's like, yo, I'm on the run. Yeah. And that's supposed to be like, haha, right, from the office task.
Yeah,
this is interesting.
This is also like, there's a whole sequence here where they're waiting for the kind of proposal to happen. But kind of one of the great things about VR is up to now, it's like that would just be a cut scene that's like really, really tight. And here it's just like, you can listen to it if you want, or you can just do whatever else you want. It's really good. And from a player standpoint, it feels really cool because you can just like decide to listen
in. And this is a good time to talk about a little bit about like affordances and what players expect. So the soap dispenser, right? So you think about like the way people interact with stuff. The soap dispenser there is just a button, right? And then has like fluid come out of a little spigot thing on the end. That's how it works internally. And here's that plate smashing thing. But the thing is, the expectation of humans is that they should be able to put a heavy object on the button and it activates. And so we had to like make sure all our buttons integrate with physics to actually work. Where it's like, oh yeah, if I put something heavy on a button, it will depress the button. If I throw something at it, it will push it.
I just love how careful and not careful things are at times. It's great.
Right, for speed.
Oh, this one has so many different solutions. It's so great.
Yes, this one, yeah. Is this the health inspector? Yeah.
The health inspector's like getting rid of this food. We just
you can eat it. It's faster to eat it.
I know. Yeah, you can eat it.
Because you don't even have to. You just get on your hands and knees and like chew on it.
It might actually be faster to put that many things in a blender because you don't have the double chomp problem.
Oh, that's true. But I don't understand what he's doing with it.
He only had to get so many.
Oh, okay. So he's just saving
his bugs for later.
Well, then he could have eaten one and tossed two, and
Yeah.
Making a little. That one was super hard to make dispense fluid because it's so rapid. People expect fluid to go really far out.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh man, that fluid pouring thing was just the bane of my existence for a good 9 months of making that work. And every time we got a little bit further along in it, it added more affordances to the point that we had somebody like we're doing here, right? Add another ingredient in, and it was like, oh, the color doesn't change. And it was like, oh no, things you just get away with so easily in traditional video games. Just you have to do everything here in VR.
Oh, yeah. And then, we've touched it in pretty much every single game we've made, right? We always are doing that. So, in Vacation Simulator, the fluids are a little more complex. And then in our upcoming game, Cosmonius High, because you could shoot fluids out of your hands and, there's kind of all sorts of interactions that happen there. We went back and we're like, all right, back into the fluid land.
Yes, and that one is ultra wild. Here is fluids can only move straight down. In that game, it's just any direction, fluid arcs. Oh man, and the fluid system has come a long ways.
Right, we solved the splash problem, right? So the thing is, in this game, if you take a cup and you want to throw it in someone's face, it just won't work, right? Because the fluids have to drop down. They actually drop from a single point, but in the Cosmonius High stuff, you can actually start splashing fluids. You can start seeing them move in different ways. So, yeah, but the thing is, we had to learn how to do all that one at a time.
Yeah. And we're looking at the time, looking online. It was for examples, and there just wasn't any because it was why would you need to have something this complicated? And it's we'll just hit A to pour fluid or whatever, right? It's
hit A to drink.
Yeah. So yeah, we have to solve everything. So, and
if it's so maybe this is, I wasn't here when it was put in, but if I recall, barfing was a joke, right? It was a haha.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if you could eat something and barf?
Yeah, and then it was well, what's the rule set for what requires you to barf? And that was actually quite a hilarious conversation.
Right. And then eventually where I came in was I had to work on the barf item database because it was suddenly oh, we want a number of different items, to have different ways of doing that. Yeah. And but the funny part about it, right, was there was this great joke. And then we go to get it rated in other countries other than and even in the US, and they're like, hey, you got any of that barfing in your game? And you're like, uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So the game's rating is 10, right? 10 plus or whatever.
E10 in the US.
This is primarily because of barfing.
But barfing has remained through all our games.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a funny speedrun strat.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's getting it to mix with liquid, yeah.
And pre getting all the meatballs.
Yeah, the meatballs are also a pretty unique item then if they allow liquid, but then they don't, they don't show a huge state change. Yeah. Yeah, this task caused a lot of funny bugs because this character will eject meatballs at you
And then if you're not careful, in earlier versions, they would bounce off the grill and roll on the floor. But then it'd be like, well, that fell on the floor. I should eject more. And so the bot would continuously eject meatballs at you.
Infinite. I think like there's nothing funnier than, and this goes even to this day in game dev at all, than like, oops, I accidentally spat too much of something out. Like we have that bug all the time in every game. I see that all the time on Twitter. It's done. Always laugh. Always laugh.
All right. What's up next here?
Store clerk.
Store clerk. So yeah, this one was about mid development, I guess, when this one went in. It actually started as a grocery store at the start, and then we were ringing people through, and we're like, well, there's limited things you can do there. And then it was like, wait a second, a store clerk having to do a whole convenience store has a lot more interesting things to do. So that's how we converted into that.
And I'd say this one started mid development, but then we actually came back to this at the very end to make some pretty significant, like, last minute changes.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the camera and the camera and the floor bot were like very last minute changes. The bot rocketing up.
Yeah. Oh, this dispenser is so good, and it is radically different depending on your play space size.
Yeah, sometimes it's behind you if you have that, and also at the time, the capabilities of each system was very different, right? So we're kind of converging now. Everything's kind of 360, but at the time there was a lot of like, what is it? Like some systems had, 120 degrees. That's all you could do. And things to your side were weird. And we had to talk a lot about occlusion.
Yep. Oh, I didn't win. It's too bad.
There's a win. Last one was a win. I didn't think it was possible to win for like a year, even after developing this. And so he's like, no, of course you can win.
Yeah, I always can win.
I did not realize that. Also, all those scratch offs are alchemy games, old alchemy games that predate this one.
Yeah, we like to do that.
little reference, as is the car, the truck in the garage.
Yep. All right.
This is business bot. This was one of the best. This sequence gets people all the time, and it gets them so mad. No, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. And they're like, I hate that guy.
Yeah. I worked in retail with somebody who came up to me with a thing in their ear, and I didn't know who they were talking to. It was terrible. And so it's like this recreates that very well. I love you just stacking everything so that it just insta goes in the bag.
Pre-stacking is smart. Pre-stacking is definitely.
You see how he's putting the cash in and out.
Yeah, he's putting the cash. Yeah, that's smart too. Yeah, it's like a split second bug where we want to animate the drawer closing, so we've like taken control of it, but he's grabbing it before the drawer completely closed.
Yeah,
and then so like in video games, like VR presents a very unique and interesting problem. So when you make physics in video games, the way that like the underlying system works is like it has to resolve what happens when two objects occupy the same space, because by its very nature, right, video games operate in discrete chunks called frames. And so if two things occupy the same space, physics systems have all these great ways of like figuring out how to do it. And that's where you get those bugs where like in Skyrim, you shoot way up into the sky because that's the physics system trying to figure that out. But the problem with VR is that it can't push your hands because those don't exist in the video game. So your hand is like this movable yet immovable object. So you get a lot of these problems like he's doing there where the physics system just has to surrender to your hand. Where it just has to go like, you know what? Obviously, I can't move the human hand outside the game, so we're just gonna let whatever you're trying to do happen. And we had to actually account for that a lot too in the game, because I know that we had to like, it breaks through. We have all sorts of things where we go like, oh, you're moving your hand in a spot that shouldn't be. So let's just like drop everything out of your hand right now.
Yeah, and it pushes against. Yeah, there's just so much code to deal with that. Physics, almost every game ever made has physics in it, and it is so fun and so frustrating at the same time.
Right, because it's like imagine if you put your hand where that bot was extending something and didn't move it, right? The game can't move your hand, so it has to figure out something to do. And all sorts of different VR folks have figured out, kind of different ways of solving that. Yeah. And ours, because it's bots, is just chaos.
Yeah. One thing that I told the team early on is to surrender control, right? A lot of video games is about trying to exert control of what's going on, and just to embrace the chaos of what was going on and just kind of let things be the best that you can. It allows for awesome, speed runs are better for it. Playthroughs are better for it because you never know what people are going to do. But yeah, it's
oh yeah, and there's all sorts of bugs. We just leave bugs in there if they're discreet enough and harmless enough. So if it's too far out, it's I had to do 6 steps to get to it, and I had to know there's an item resize glitch in this part of the game where you can just make an infinitely large item, but to do it, it's 4 or 5 steps. And most of the time when people find it, they're so overjoyed that it's actually just better for us to leave it.
Yep.
And then glasses are fine. I think we've redone glasses a different way every game, right? So this was our first shot, and this one was oh, it doesn't make you sick. That's cool. And then we did a different one in Vacation Sim, and Cosmonious High is still different.
That was fast.
That was really fast. All set. Well, this is the bot that is not paying attention for unknown reasons. Unknown.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the humor that we try to do is when we write this stuff, we're trying to make sure that it's, hey, if the adults see what's going on, they totally know what's happening. But if a kid sees it, they just think it's something funny and fun. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So this cleaning bot appears differently in different games too. That interface appears different, and arguably better in the versions where we struggled to have 3 different screens running. And actually, there's the game knows which screens are visible to you, so it tries not to be drawing the second screen when you're not looking at it.
The task is so great. These kids are trying to buy stuff they shouldn't, and they're pretending, and it's very, very funny.
Three kids. That's when they
totally an adult.
Yeah. Totally a real adult. 3 kids stacked up in a jacket, and their crappy fake ID. Oh, the Twitch-o-matic screen. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, there's a funny thing that happens at the end of the game when you could pick, it's kind of one of those funny lines where you pick the wrong thing. I talked to a Mass Effect dev once, and they're oh, one of my favorite things is to romance somebody and get them right to the end of the romance script and then pick reject. And he's no one ever hears those lines because once you've committed. And so there's another funny one here where the three they present you with the 3 different things, and they're hey, you could pick anyone. You pick the old lady. And it's and she's what? What did I do?
Yeah. You're trying to say who robbed the store?
Who robbed the store? So it's time to go to the office.
Office time.
The office is the second job, right? That's not the second canonically, is the second one that we did that made it into the game.
Yeah, the funny thing about Job Simulator is this seems like the first job that you would ever do, but it ended up being the 8th one we prototyped. We were showing somebody the game, and they were going through it, and they were well, we had space station repair and just some weird prototype stuff. And they're where's the office? And we're oh no, we made a horrible mistake. Obviously, we need an office.
Well, and also what you think is fun is not fun. What is fun in our simulator games is doing the mundane but being silly with it, right? Yeah. And so space station repair isn't going to be as fun as this is because space station repair. There it is. Yeah, that's a good
zero-G bug. The 0G bug. Yeah, if you grab something coming out of the photocopier just at the right time, you can get it to lose gravity.
So back to physics, right? So we couldn't think about how to animate something and also have the physics. So we turned off gravity on it to animate it coming out of that printer. If you grab it at the right time, it stops the animation, but doesn't ever turn on the gravity. We saw that after launch. Finally, we saw this bug, and at that point, we're like, nah, people like it too much. We're gonna leave it. It stays.
Too good. It's too good. Yeah,
Bug
that photocopier is like such a good joke, and that the amount of effort to make everything work correctly in that photocopier, and then do weird things like he photocopied a disc and you made an illegal copy and stuff. Don't copy.
Don't copy that floppy disk. Yeah.
Okay, this task is so funny. This is my joke, and so many people didn't get it. This is you're cooking the books, and the books are on fire, and I think it is hilarious. But most people,
it's real high concept here. Now, I mean, I enjoy it too. We did a lot of those. So, like, you know, the infinite overtime version of this is really interesting, right? Because it's just like the serious business overtime, and it's, you know, because unlike the other jobs, which had like these deep systems that we could mess with, this one just has a bunch of like unique things. So we had to go and almost, you know, look at it and redo it. And and so we had a lot of fun with that. So you see a lot of cooking the book style jokes popping back up. Yeah. Just what's haha business?
That vending machine that came out, we had one of our developers, Debs, found a bug where you could just eat everything. So to complete the task, you jam your face in it. But did that create awful bugs at the other end? And we had to come up with solutions to deal with it because, like your hands, we can't control the position of your head.
Yeah, and with those bugs, we you know, there's certain ones where we're like, okay, we're fine with this, and others where we're like, this actually breaks what people think about VR, right? Yeah. Once we start allowing people to pop their heads through stuff and go to weird places, you know, then they stop respecting the rules of the world. This is what we always tell other developers, like, don't hide a cool thing through a wall. Once people don't believe in your walls, they believe in nothing. Like digital nihilism.
So this task is super funny because it's the only time we change like the lighting model in here, and it's just for this joke because we had this projector and it created so many problems.
Barfing. Yeah, well, and like so many times the projector you go too fast, the projector would be off, right? Yeah. The lights would just stay off forever, or the lights would turn on randomly. And that button is terrible because that is if I recall, that and the fire extinguisher are the two moving buttons in the game. Buttons that can be picked up and moved around. And remember, it's physics, so you can shake it hard enough that the button might not move when the object moves. And then it'll click like 1,000 times in a second.
Yeah. I think a funny thing about this mouse was like, we didn't know if this was going to work, like that you could click things. And I think a very funny and satisfying thing is the amount of people I've heard from where they're like, my son or daughter learned how to use a mouse using your game, right? So like, we see that is.
You know, we see the youth of the world just start smacking the screen and getting real upset at it, and then not even understand there's like a tower part below it. Yeah. Like computers in two parts.
Yeah. Oh man, this game's been out for over 5 years now, and so kind of thinking like through Vacation Simulator now, like getting close to releasing Cosmonious High, like how far we've come in the development practices and technological stack for sure.
Oh yeah, and the pipe, that was another one that got us in trouble with the rating. Oh, you could see the water bug there where it kind of like only went down and so it moved in a funny way. But the pipe got us in trouble because we had to answer. I think it was for Korea. They're like, does this involve smoking? And we didn't know how to answer that because it is a pipe, but bubbles come out of it. So I think we just wrote, there is a pipe in the game, and when you put it to your face, bubbles come out. And we're like, they'll figure out what that means. It's on them.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting close.
Getting close to the end here, yeah.
Getting close.
And what's it, 40-40 is what it says. Or at least that's the record he had. The shredder is great, and we had to record a special line if you put the doll, the pole toy in, and then in infinite overtime we recorded another special line if you put like the temp bot doll in.
Yeah, it's very, very funny.
Oh, here we go. The cops going to arrest Boss Bot, and then CEO Bot's coming in. Oh, and the cake stays there, but we decided that was okay. It got too late.
Sometimes we just gotta ship a game.
Yeah. Oh, and I get they put the cop the cop on CEO.
Yeah.
Take their cake.
Take the cake.
I think the player's not supposed to really be able to get a piece of cake. So I worked on the original like thing to make the candles blow out. So like originally you'd actually breathe. You go like, but that sucks. Now you just hold it near your mouth. Well, because microphone settings are bad.
Yes.
Microphone settings are bad. And everyone who now understands how bad they are. Yeah. Here we go. I wonder when it ends. I wonder if it ends when he says, see, when is time?
Yeah. Confetti.
Yeah.
Paper airplanes. Yeah.
The paper airplanes have special physics on them too. They're another object that just behaves by itself.
Yes, they are not. You have to do a lot of code to get paper airplanes correctly. Oh, it's zero G'ing.
He's zero G'ing paper, so he gets the little gyro force to lift it up. Yeah. That's awesome. I see. All right. It should be about. I wonder if they're waiting for a specific line at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like given that you don't have to do anything interactive, it should just end when you pull the lever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, also the original demo for Job Simulator was in the office and it was 5 minutes long. And one of our favorite things is there's this person who organizes some of the conferences and stuff. We had them play the game, and normally it's just like a big party and chaos, and this person just stood in the middle, didn't do anything, and just let paper airplanes hit them and just was like, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and if anybody's interested in kind of working on now, definitely come to alchemylabs.com. We had a lot of blog posts about cool stuff we're working on.
Lot of blog posts. Our Twitter feed has a lot of good stuff on it. That's Owlchemy Labs on Twitter. Cosmonious High has a Twitter feed. And yeah, the games are still available. Doing great. People love them. And so those are out on, you can get them on Quest. You get it on PlayStation VR. You can get it on Steam VR and any of the headsets that Steam VR supports. And that's both Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator. And then later this year, we will be releasing Cosmonious High. And if you go to cosmonioushigh.com, you can check out the trailer there.
All right. Thanks so much. And that was an awesome speedrun.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And thanks IGN for hosting us.